What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode on EI Entertainment Studios, back at it with another debate episode. Today's debate episode, we're going to be talking about Shin Mecha Godzilla versus Shin Destoroyah. Here's the plan, folks. We're going to go deep into both of these kaiju's backstories, characteristics, abilities. We're going to dive deep and understand them. Once we're done basically analyzing these two creatures, we're going to put them up against each other in a death battle. I'll go way more into detail once we get there. So without further ado, let's begin with the backstory of Shin MechaGodzilla. So, Shin MechaGodzilla came into existence after Shin Godzilla was injected with the coagulant and froze. DNA samples from Shin Godzilla's body had fallen to the ground, and elite biologists collected the samples and kept them alive with the correct temperature and placed the DNA samples into a Godzilla-like metal-built body, so the DNA could evolve and adapt into the metal body and form a brain. After 13 days, the DNA evolution cycle was complete, and a half-robotic and half-flesh Godzilla was born, known as Shin MechaGodzilla. Now, Shin MechaGodzilla's height is approximately 196 meters tall. Abilities, quick skim. I'm going to skim over them. We're going to finish off Shin MechaGodzilla, and then we're going to come back before we move on to Shin Destoroyah, and we'll do a deep analysis. Don't worry. Right now, I'm just going to do a quick skim. Abilities goes as follows. Super Laser Ray, Gliding Ability, Laser Rockets, Scan Missiles, Prediction Ability, Solar Recharge, Adaptation Ability. Territorial level is maximum. Aggression level is indeed maximum. Biome is also unlimited. I'll explain that once we go back to the abilities, and that's what we're going to do right now. So I want to give a quick disclaimer for my returning viewers who have watched my other debate videos. You'll notice that this is not the first time Shin MechaGodzilla is making an appearance. I like to say this in most of my videos. The abilities might be altered slightly. They're going to have the same names, but their functionality might be altered just slightly. So just want you guys to remember that when you're listening to this. So let's go back and let's do a deep analysis for each ability. First one we have is called the Super Laser Ray. Now we know that the DNA of Shin Godzilla, the DNA of MechaGodzilla, in this case of metal body, has been mixed together, so creating a hybrid kaiju. And so Shin Godzilla himself, the original Shin Godzilla, has a laser that shoots out of his mouth, just like the atomic breath where most Godzillas have. In this case, it's a laser, it's a beam, and it just slashes through objects and buildings and structures, or whatever you want to call it. With that case, that has been perfected and become more deadly and focused with this whole metal AI technology. So what happens is it's a laser, just like normal Shin Godzilla, but it's more focused, it's stronger, it's faster, and it's even hotter. So it's even more deadly than the original laser, which is called now the Super Laser Ray, and it can just rip through the heart, rip through flesh, rip through metal, rip through steel, anything you call it. It melts anything in its path. Next we have the gliding ability. Now, Shin MechaGodzilla can actually he can glide through surfaces wherever he wants. He can glide into opponents, glide around the sky, or just smash into opponents. Right? When I just say gliding, I don't mean just slowly gliding. He can do it pretty quickly and just glide into his opponents as well, or just fly around. And he can actually glide really quickly on short distances. So, let's say for example, if he was going up against a monster who could use an atomic breath or any type of fire, he can actually glide quickly left, right, back and forth and actually avoid it, or you could say dodge the abilities. Very good ability. Next we have the laser rockets. So Shin MechaGodzilla has rockets all over his body, preferably more on his upper body, and they all pre-aim off of a heat signature, and they're a normal rocket that goes and explodes on the opponent, or whoever it's shooting on, or whatever it's shooting at. However, the only difference here is because they're not regular rockets, they're laser rockets. So when they explode, like a normal explosion, they actually, after, release a bunch of small sharp lasers after the explosion, and they start just tearing up small bits of flesh. So not only is there a big explosion with the impact of the rocket, but there's also small bits of lasers blowing up after the explosion that it gets triggered. So that's what that is. Next we have scan missiles. This is a great ability. So the scan missiles are basically a missile that only shoots when Shin Mecha Godzilla predicts, and there's another ability similar to this that we're gonna go over, but the difference between that and this, and we'll get there, but before I do actually say that, the scan missiles basically, let's say that he's fighting, well, for example, we're looking at Gigan right now in this video, and Biolante versus Gigan in the gameplay, and so if I could give you an example that could kind of show it to you, imagine that this creature in front of me wanted to glide at me, right? So Shin Mecha Godzilla would sense that, and the missile would directly just go and hit that one part of the body that would stop the glide. Or if he was fighting against Godzilla, for example, if Godzilla used an atomic breath, that missile would get activated and it would go right straight to the mouth to stop that atomic breath, or even the dorsal plate, whichever. So they detect ability starting, and they try to cancel out as soon as possible. So it's a very powerful ability. Next we have prediction ability. Now the prediction ability is not perfect, because it is an AI system, but it's not perfect, as in, if Shin MechaGodzilla doesn't know or hasn't studied the opponent in a specific amount of time, it can't predict what you're gonna do or how you're gonna fight and what your style is. So if it's the first time, it's gonna get hit a few times by your opponent. Once it gets hit a few times and it starts studying, because like non-stop, constantly, Shin Mecha Godzilla is studying his opponent. So at one point during the fight, Shin Mecha Godzilla is going to remember and study every single ability and tactic the opponent is using, and it's going to actually predict every move. And then combining that with the scan missile, it's going to completely cancel the opponent out. Okay, next we have the solar recharge. So this is a super amplified super recharge. So what it does is, like a regular solar recharger, basically a solar panel, I would give you an example, gets energy off of the sun, and you could use it to power anything, almost anything. And what happens is, usually when there's clouds, it doesn't collect as much power because the clouds destroy that UV ray. So what happens is, this solar recharge is so specifically created to be very powerful. It doesn't matter if it's night or day, cloudy or sunny. This creature, Shin Mecha Godzilla, is constantly getting recharged. During a whole fight, it can go for hours and hours and years just fighting non-stop. And a normal opponent made out of flesh is gonna get tired. This thing just gets recharged and just goes. Very, very powerful. And finally, we have the adaptation ability. Now, obviously, it's a AI robot with Shin DNA, meaning it can build itself into other things. So it can actually adapt and look at the opponent and adapt its body and rebuild its body during a battle to fit the opponent. That's how interesting this adaptation ability is. Okay, folks, that basically sums up Shin Mecha Godzilla. Let's go to Shin Destoroyah. So the backstory of Shin Destoroyah goes as follows. Shin Destoroyah came to its existence after the red body fluid of Shin Godzilla was excreted into the Pacific Ocean, and the radiation that mixed with the red body fluid created an oxygen-killing element that formed into a new life form that has evolved to destroy and kill all of life, which is now known as Shin Destoroyah. The height of Shin Destoroyah is approximately 220 meters tall, which is quite bigger than Shin MechaGodzilla at 196 meters tall. The territorial level is maximum, the aggression level is maximum, and the biome is definitely unlimited. Alright, so now let's go over the abilities of Shin Destoroyah. First we have the lung-destroying ray. This is a very important one. We know that Shin Destoroyah dislikes oxygen, is created off of an area where oxygen is not a factor for this creature. So the obvious thing is, he has an ability where it's a ray. It's like a laser ray, but the difference is it only shoots at the opponent's lungs, and it keeps on targeting the opponent's lungs to destroy the lungs so it cannot breathe oxygen anymore. And that is a big, big one. Next we have the oxygen cancel blast. Now, the ability before this was the lung destroying ray. This one is an oxygen cancel blast, so it's a different ray that shoots around the face of the opponent, and what it does is it actually kills or destroys all of the oxygen for about a minute or two in that area. So the opponent is going to start choking and is going to become very vulnerable to any ability used by Shin Destoroyah. Super, super powerful. Next we have the negative gravity laser. Shin Destoroyah can use a laser that actually destroys gravity, and it makes the opponent actually fly up and just start floating in that small area. And then again, it becomes very vulnerable to Shin Destoroyah's abilities. Next we have the ramming ability. Shin Destoroyah has a very bulky body, and he can actually ram into the opponent and just completely destroy all bones and everything that opponent has over there. So it's going to be really hectic to get rammed by Shin Destoroyah, and he can actually fly too. So he can ram by running into you, or ram by flying into you. Kind of similar to Shin Mecha Godzilla in that he can glide, right? Next we have the adaptation ability. Since we're again talking about Shin DNA, he can adapt and evolve his body to suit the opponent or the scenario. And finally we have the focused energy blast. This is the most powerful ability yet for Shin Destoroyah. It is an ability where a very massive ray comes out of his mouth. Over 300,000 small atomic blasts are getting shot all over his body, just all the way on his opponent, and he forces up from the center of the earth. Because it's so focused, all the lava just explodes onto the opponent. Imagine all of that. It's very powerful. Now, I do want to, before we move on to the death battle, I do want to talk about something. I remember I told you guys, and I said just wait for this. When we were talking about Shin Mecha Godzilla, I would explain the biome being unlimited. The reason why I didn't explain it yet when I were talking about Shin Mecha Godzilla, because Shin Destoroyah also has the biome unlimited, so I just saved it for now. So let me explain for both of these kaijus why their biome is actually unlimited. They have Shin DNA, and we know in Shin Godzilla, in the actual film, he can adapt and evolve, kind of similar to what the abilities have I've already talked about, but let me explain this. They can adapt and evolve the Shin DNA. For example, we didn't really see Form 1, we saw Form 2. And when he came on the ground, he needed to adapt to make his legs stronger, to walk faster. And so he adapted and evolved and changed his form, and he was able to walk pretty good. And then he noticed he was overheating. So he adapted and evolved again. And then in the final form, well, not the final form, there's more forms, but in the final form of the movie, just Form 4, and then he technically goes into a different form, which we might see, might not see later in future Godzilla films. He changes into a form, or he's changing into a form where there's humanoids, so he sees humans, so he's trying to adapt and evolve into them. Very powerful ability, and that's why he can actually evolve and change his health to fit the biome. If it was in lava, he would adapt and evolve his body to be suitable to live in lava. If it was in space, he would adapt and evolve his lungs to be able to breathe in space without any oxygen. So that's basically what that is. Okay, and that applies to both of these kaijus. Okay folks, now we're done explaining them, let's go into the death battle. So we're going to do it. We're going to do best out of two, close range and far range. Why do I do this? Far range tests abilities of these opponents out by limiting them. We're still trying to see if you limit their abilities, can they still win a battle? It's a very good way of testing them out. And then close range is just all out war. Whoever's stronger, whoever's better, whoever's bigger wins the war. Almost. Not all the time, but most of the time. So, Let's do first far range. Now here's the rules. These opponents cannot, I repeat, cannot come closer than 700 meters apart. Unacceptable after that, okay? They cannot come closer than 700 meters. So keep that in consideration. Now let's see what abilities Shin MechaGodzilla can and cannot use when it comes to far range. First we have the Super Laser Ray. Yes, it can go far distances, it's fine. Gliding ability? No. He can glide around in his area, but he cannot come close to Shin Destoroyah. Remember, 700 meters apart. He can use it for defensive, but not offensive. Laser rockets? Yes. Scan missiles will not work, they need to be much closer. Prediction ability? Much closer. So, scan missiles and prediction ability will be invalid for far range. Solar recharge, it doesn't matter. Yes. Adaptation ability? Yes. So basically, he can use almost every ability except gliding. Gliding can use only defensive, not offensive. So we're gonna say he can't technically. Gliding he can't. Scan missiles he can't, and prediction ability he cannot. Okay. Let's do the same thing for Shin Destoroyah. What can he or cannot use? So lung destroying ray, yes, he can use that. Oxygen cancel blast, yes, it's a blast, it's a ray, it goes all the way where it wants to go. 700 meters is nothing for that, it can travel. Negative gravity laser, yes. Ramming ability, no. Adaptation ability, yes. Focused energy blast, yes. So we can basically use every single ability except for the ramming ability. Okay. Far distance. I see, personally, Shin MechaGodzilla kind of focusing and testing the place out and noticing Shin Destoroyah, so he's going to be the first one to initiate this battle. And I honestly believe he's going to use the Super Laser Ray not only for a warning shot, but for a damage shot as well, to kind of fend off Shin Destoroyah. So I personally believe when he does this, it's obviously going to piss off Shin Destoroyah. He's not going to back off, he's going to accept the challenge. So when Shin MechaGodzilla uses the Super Laser Ray, it's going to cut right through Shin Destoroyah's flesh. And it's going to really piss him off. So I believe Shin Destoroyah, as a alternative, is going to use the lung destroying ray, and is going to notice that it's not going to work. It's not going to do anything to Shin MechaGodzilla, because Shin MechaGodzilla is a robot. It's not a living creature. It is living, but it's not like a flesh-living creature, so it's not going to do exactly anything, and that's going to prove to Shin MechaGodzilla, it's going to give him intel that Shin Destoroyah is a vulnerable creature with lungs and all that stuff, right? So it's going to start focusing on more sharper abilities. So I believe what's going to happen is then Shin MechaGodzilla can actually focus in on Shin Destoroyah and start blasting him with laser rockets and just completely bombarding him with explosions and laser blasts, and it's gonna really throw him off. But remember that Shin Destoroyah does have a very specific ability, and it's a very powerful ability. It's an ability that cannot be messed with, and it is called the Focused Energy Blast, and it is super powerful. And what's gonna happen is he's gonna use that energy. He's gonna get that blast of the mouth in over the thousands and thousands of lasers from his body, and then getting that lava getting pushed up from the earth. And I believe that's gonna take Shin MechaGodzilla in the far range. It's gonna completely dismantle him. Therefore, I'm gonna say 1-0 in favor of Shin Destoroyah. Now let's go into the close range. Now, close range is a bit different. Close range, Shin MechaGodzilla is 196 meters tall. Shin Destoroyah is 220 meters tall. So not the biggest difference, but there is quite the difference. It's enough difference for a bigger arm reach, bigger body, and more brute mass and brute strength. So these opponents are going to be face to face, and they're going to ram into each other. And when they ram into each other, I truly believe that Shin Destoroyah is going to completely outram Shin MechaGodzilla. Yes, Shin MechaGodzilla is pure steel, and it's large and it's fast, but Shin Destoroyah is just too bulky, too gigantic, too many thorns on his body. It's just too protective. Imagine like an Anguirus type of creature. So I truly believe that it's gonna cause a lot of damage to Shin MechaGodzilla when they ram into each other. Now, obviously, anytime Shin Destoroyah decides to use an ability, there is a very good offense and defense that Shin MechaGodzilla can use, and that's actually going to be the scan missiles. Every time Shin Destoroyah tries to use a laser or any type of ability, the scan missile is going to quickly scan it, and it's going to shoot at that specific part of the body that's needed to use that ability, and it's going to keep on canceling out Shin Destoroyah in that sense. And remember, Shin MechaGodzilla can actually multitask, so he can actually turn on that scan missile and keep on canceling out every time Shin Destoroyah wants to use an ability. And then once he has that turned on, he can easily use the super laser ray and the laser rockets and keep on blasting and blasting Shin Destoroyah. Now, Shin Destoroyah is gonna learn to adapt and evolve, just like any Shin DNA can, and he's gonna adapt and evolve to a point where that scan missile is going to get mixed up. So every time he's gonna turn on, let's say for example, he's gonna use a lung destroying ray, or he's gonna turn that on, right? And Shin MechaGodzilla's scan missile is gonna detect the lung destroying ray, and it's gonna shoot there, and then but he's gonna quickly change into the oxygen cancel blast, and that's how he's gonna get Shin MechaGodzilla, by tricking the opponent. He's gonna adapt and evolve to the situation and understand how to evolve and change himself. And that's the way how to destroy Shin MechaGodzilla. And then again, I see the same outcome with the focus energy blast. Again, I still see Shin Destoroyah taking Shin MechaGodzilla, making it 2-0. Obviously, this is just my opinion. 2-0 winner for Shin Destoroyah. You can debate me in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a wonderful and great day.